Savelle for your cheerleader of dreams. Hey, if you've never subscribed to this podcast, just push the little red button right there to get consistent teaching, tools, and tips to help you live your dreams. In fact, I want to talk to you about how to change your mindset forever in just a few minutes. You know, successful people have often been compared to eagles. You know, the majestic bird who soars above all other birds. But did you know that they have one characteristic in particular that sets them apart from everyone else? It's this. The eagle actually uses the storm to his advantage. Did you know that? I didn't realize that until I started studying them. You know, when the clouds gather, the eagle actually gets excited. The eagle uses the wings of the storm to rise and be lifted higher. Well, my point is, the storms in our lives can be used to lift us to greater heights. In fact, I've even read where airplanes are concerned, that when airplanes take off, they don't take off with the wind. They actually take off against the wind. See, the storms that are coming against you, they're not meant to keep you down. They're meant to lift you to a higher level. In fact, Tony Hawk said, see adversity as a challenge. He said the time you want to bail is probably when it's most crucial for you and when opportunity exists. Well, nobody ever goes from plateau to plateau to plateau. In fact, we don't go from mountaintop to mountaintop to mountaintop. When a shepherd leads sheep, think about it. They have to go through the valley to get to the next mountaintop. Well, it's so easy when you're faced with a struggle to get a victim mentality and to just sort of feel like I'm the only one who's had to struggle this much. And trust me, we all fall into that. But do you know that every successful person has had major storms, attacks, failures, disappointments, and wanting to quit? You know, you think about Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs was fired, think about how young he was. At 21 years old, he founded Apple Computer. By 23, he was incredibly successful, known around the world. Well, 7 years later, after developing this global brand that most of us enjoy today, so many products, he clashed with his board of directors and was fired from the company that he started. Now, can you imagine that? In fact, they say he told his friends, how he felt betrayed, he felt wronged. Instead of sitting around, though, and just feeling sorry for himself and wallowing in self-pity, he went out and learned new skills and started a new company. Well, this company had something that Apple really needed, and it was so successful that Apple purchased his company and brought him back as the CEO. Steve Jobs said, if I hadn't been fired, I would have never learned these new skills that have made me into who I am. In other words, stay focused in the storm. It's meant to lift you to a higher level if you have the right mindset. See, other successful people who have faced challenges, let me just share a few of them with you right now. Michael Jordan, he said, I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. He said, I've lost almost 300 games. Then he said this, on 26 occasions, I've been entrusted to take the game-winning shot, and I missed. He said, I have felt over and over and over again, and that's why I succeed. Well, he has the right mindset, a successful mindset. Well, same with tennis player Stan Smith. He said he was rejected from even being a lowly ball boy for a Davis Cup tennis match because the event organizers felt he was clumsy and uncoordinated. Can you imagine? Well, he went on to prove them wrong, showcasing his not-so-clumsy skills, winning Wimbledon, U.S. Open, and 8 Davis Cups that I know of so far. Well, same with legendary baseball player Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth, you probably don't know this, but of course, his home run record, he had 714 during his career, but along with the home runs came a ton of strikeouts, 1,330 strikeouts in all. Well, in fact, for decades, he held the record for strikeouts. Well, when they asked him, he simply said, every strike brings me closer to the next home run. Well, my question for you is, what is your story? Maybe you just launched a ministry and you don't have one invitation to speak. Maybe you just finished your book and publishers don't want it. Maybe you just started a business and not one phone call or sale has come in. Or maybe you haven't sold any product and someone even returned an item. If you'll change your mindset to understand that this storm you're facing is preparing you for the next level. What if you couldn't reach your destiny without it? David in the Bible, he would still be known as a shepherd boy if it weren't for Goliath. Think about that. Goliath was placed in his path not to defeat him, but to promote him. So what you're facing today, it may look like a setback, but it's really a setup to promote you. So when you overcome this obstacle, you'll step up to another level. In fact, I heard a story from Joel Osteen, and it was about the early 1900s farmers in Alabama who were facing a major challenge. A tiny insect called the boll weevil was destroying their crops. Well, they tried everything to stop it. They exterminated, they developed special formulas. Nothing was working. Well, all they could do was just watch their livelihood be eaten away until one day a farmer had an idea. He said, instead of planting our normal crops, why don't we try planting peanuts? They looked at him like he was crazy. People said, we can't make a living off of peanuts. Well, they discovered that the boll weevil didn't like peanuts. Well, their crops took off like nothing they'd ever seen. In fact, they made more money off the peanuts in a few months than they'd made the whole year off of cotton crops. Well, when the boll weevils finally left, they never went back to planting cotton again. They stuck with the peanuts. So what am I saying? God can turn your boll weevils into peanuts if you stay focused in the storm. Use it to lift you higher. You may have heard this phrase, but hang on to it. Warfare always surrounds the birth of a miracle. Warfare always surrounds the birth of a miracle. In fact, Joyce Meyer says, new level, new devil. I love this little quote from Jackson Brown. He wrote a book called Life's Little Instruction Book, and he said there's only 2 rules to perseverance. Rule number 1, take one more step. Rule number 2, when you can't take one more step, refer to rule number 1. I like that. Well, Corrie ten Boom, I love this. She was having lunch with Miles Monroe and Oral Roberts back in 1976. And Miles Monroe asked her, he said, what is the secret to your stamina at 82 years old? And this is what she said. Son, remember to live according to your vision, never according to your eyes. Then she said this, believe in the dark what God told you in the light. That's powerful. Believe in the dark what God told you in the light. So I want to challenge you today. Embrace the storm. Let it lift you to the next level. When you sense the storm is coming, get excited. Say, God's getting ready to promote me to a higher level. And remember, storms can become a springboard for promotion. I hope you enjoyed that today. In fact, I want to close out by just recognizing our subscriber of the week. And this one just happens to be Amaki Obi. That's a unique name. Amaka. No, it's Amaka. Amaka Obi. She says, hi, Terri. I just want to say a huge thank you. She said, I've been listening to your messages consistently for 2 years now, and it's greatly improved my life. That thrills me. She said, but just this morning in my quiet time with God, I asked him to help me decide which path to follow, as I have so many ideas and dreams I want to achieve. And then I listened to your message on focus, and I feel he just spoke to me. I love this. She said, thank you for being the tool Jesus used to answer my prayer this morning. Keep blessing and inspiring us through the Word of God from a faithful subscriber from Nigeria. She says, I'm so proud of you. Well, I am so proud of you, Amaka. I am cheering you on. And for everybody else watching today, anytime you're getting ready to go to a new level, the next level of your life, it's going to demand leaving a place of comfort. And I don't like it either. But I want to help you step out of your comfort zone so you can go after all that God has for you. I've developed simple yet effective exercises you can do that'll challenge you in the best way possible. And I actually think you're going to have so much fun with this. Click the link in the description for my Comfort Zone download. It's absolutely free, and you can refer to it each day. Now, I truly believe this message can take you from where you are to where you want to be. So for more consistent motivation, be sure to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. Find my handles below or click the little red subscribe button right down there for weekly videos to make this your best year yet. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.